During the 1930s, the French built the Maginot Line, fortifications along the border with Germany. The line was intended to economize on manpower and deter a German invasion across the Franco-German border by diverting it into Belgium, which could then be met by the best divisions of the French army. The war would take place outside French territory, avoiding the destruction of the First World War. The main section of the Maginot Line ran from the Swiss border and ended at Longueuil. The hills and woods of the Ardennes region were thought to cover the area to the north. General Philippe Pétain declared the Ardennes to be impenetrable as long as special provisions were taken to destroy an invasion force as it emerged from the Ardennes by a pincer attack. The French commander-in-chief, Maurice Gamelin, also believed the area to be safe from attack, noting it never favored large operations. French war games, held in 1938, of a hypothetical German armored attack through the Ardennes, left the army with the impression that the region was still largely impenetrable and that this, along with the obstacle of the Meuse River, would allow the French time to bring up troops into the area to counter any attack. Germany had mobilized 4,200,000 men of the Heer, 1 million of the Luftwaffe, 180,000 of the Kriegsmarine and 100,000 of the Waffen-SS. When consideration is made for those in Poland, Denmark, and Norway, the army had 3 million men available for the offensive starting on May 10, 1940. These manpower reserves were formed into 157 divisions. Of these, 135 were earmarked for the offensive, including 42 reserve divisions. The German forces in the West in May and June deployed some 2,439 tanks and 7,378 guns. In 1939-40, 45% of the army was at least 40 years old and 50% of all the soldiers had just a few weeks training. The German army was far from motorized. 10% of their army was motorized in 1940 and could muster only 120,000 vehicles, compared with the 300,000 of the French army. All of the British Expeditionary Force was motorized. Most of the German logistical transport consisted of horse-drawn vehicles. Only 50% of the German divisions available in 1940 were fit for operations, often being worse equipped than the German army of 1,914 or their equivalents in the British and French armies. In the spring of 1940, the German army was semi-modern. A small number of the best-equipped and elite divisions were offset by many second- and third-rate divisions. Army Group A, commanded by Gerd von Rundstedt, comprised 45 divisions, including 7 Panzer, and was to execute the main movement effort through the Allied defenses in the Ardennes. At Sedan, the French Meuse line consisted of a strong defensive belt 6 kilometers deep, laid out according to the modern principles of zone defense on slopes overlooking the Meuse Valley. It was strengthened by 103 pillboxes, manned by the 147th Fortress Infantry Regiment. Deeper positions were held by the 55th Infantry Division, a Grade B reserve division. On the morning of May 13th, the 71st Infantry Division was inserted to the east of Sedan, allowing the 55th Infantry Division to narrow its front by a third and deepen its position to over 10 kilometers. The division had a superiority in artillery to the German units present. On May 13th, Panzergruppe Kleist forced 3 crossings near Sedan, executed by the 1st Panzer Division, 2nd Panzer Division, and 10th Panzer Division. These groups were reinforced by the elite Infantry Regiment Großdeutschland.
Am anderen Ufer wird sofort Stellung bezogen. Es muss ein Brückenkopf für die Arbeit der Pioniere geschaffen werden.
Instead of slowly massing artillery as the French expected, the Germans concentrated most of their air power on smashing a hole in a narrow sector of the French lines by carpet bombing and dive bombing. Guderian had been promised extraordinarily heavy air support during a continual 8-hour air attack, from 8 a.m. until dusk. The Luftwaffe executed the heaviest air bombardment the world had yet witnessed and the most intense by the Germans during the war. 2 dive bomber wings attacked, flying 300 sorties against French positions. A total of 3,940 sorties were flown by 9 bomber groups. Some of the forward pillboxes were undamaged and the garrisons repulsed the crossing attempts of the 2nd Panzer Division and 10th Panzer Division. The morale of the troops of the 55th Infantry Division further back was broken by the air attacks and French gunners fled. The German infantry, at a cost of a few hundred casualties, penetrated up to 8 kilometers into the French defensive zone by midnight. Even by then, most of the infantry had not crossed. Much of this success was due to the actions of just 6 German platoons, mainly assault engineers. That day, every available Allied light bomber was employed in an attempt to destroy the 3 bridges, but lost about 44% of the Allied bomber strength for no result. Guderian had indicated on May 12th that he wanted to enlarge the bridgehead to at least 20 kilometers. His superior, General Ewald von Kleist, ordered him, on behalf of Hitler, to limit his moves to a maximum of 8 kilometers before consolidation. At 11:45 on May 14th, Rundstedt confirmed this order, which implied that the tank units should now start to dig in. Guderian was able to get Kleist to agree on a form of words for a reconnaissance in force by threatening to resign and behind-the-scenes intrigues. Guderian continued the advance, despite the halt order. In the original Manstein plan, as Guderian had suggested, secondary attacks would be carried out to the southeast, in the rear of the Maginot Line. This would confuse the French command and occupy ground where French counteroffensive forces would assemble. This element had been removed by Halder, but Guderian sent the 10th Panzer Division and Infantry Regiment Grossdeutschland south over the Stan Plateau. Stan changed hands 17 times and fell to the Germans for the last time on the evening of May 17th. Guderian turned the 1st Panzer Division and the 2nd Panzer Division westwards on May 14th, which advanced swiftly down the Somme Valley towards the English Channel. On May 15th, Guderian's motorized infantry fought their way through the reinforcements of the new French 6th Army in their assembly area west of Sedan, undercutting the southern flank of the French 9th Army.
A two-day battle at Sedan ended in defeat for the French defenders. German forces advanced swiftly to the coast. The Allies, including the bulk of the British Expeditionary Force, retreated to Dunkirk. Rather than counterattack, the decision was made to organize an evacuation from Dunkirk. German troops entered Paris on the 14th of June. French forces withdrew from the city the day before, and it was declared an open city, meaning it would not be defended in order to prevent its destruction. France requested an armistice on the 17th of June. The document was signed on the 22nd of June in the same railcar where German representatives signed the armistice at the end of the First World War. The car was relocated to the same location in the Campine forest.